Could we all make our way to our seats, please?
Bart, hey, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Welcome all to our CRWUA Conference 2016, and good morning. An important aspect of our association is that we're an all-volunteer organization. This entire conference is budgeted, conceived, organized, promoted, topics and venues are selected, and the associated speakers are all arranged by our CRWUA volunteers. And it all starts with many of you, our state delegates whom elect the trustees. So the trustees, our committees, and their chairpersons put this entire conference together. And it would not come together well without the competent administrative support we receive from Southern Nevada Water Authority. No hired consultants, no event coordinators, just us making this happen for all of us. So I offer sincere thanks to all for their efforts in producing this conference. And I would like to give special thanks this year to the Walton Family Foundation for their first ever support of our conference. We look forward to future involvement with the Walton Foundation to make CRWUA even more relevant to all of us. I want to highlight some of the transitions that we are facing. One transition is that I'm here. It's California's turn to provide leadership to the association. And I would like to note that my fellow California trustees are Glenn Peterson of Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and John Powell Jr. of Coachella Valley Water District. Gentlemen, if you're here, could you stand, wave your hand briefly to be acknowledged? Thanks much to both of you. I'm a third-generation farmer from the Palo Verde Irrigation District. Palo Verde is one of the senior water users on the river, but we have worked collaboratively with our junior partners in California and with other states to manage our water efficiently and to help our state avoid conflict. We are working through a series of new agreements with Metropolitan Water District regarding implementation of our renowned rotational fallowing program that has become a role model for other districts and throughout our basin, as well as throughout California. We will hear about other successful efforts within California during our first panel. I might note it has been many years since a full-time farmer has been in this position, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Another transition is our theme of collaboration, and it would be hard to discuss transition and collaboration along the river without mentioning John Fleck's newly released book entitled Water is for Fighting Over, and other myths about water in the West. Interesting and entertaining, and much about us and much about our issues in our basin. I bought my copy from Amazon, and I highly recommend the book, and no, Fleck didn't pay me a dime to say these things. Later on this morning, in this room at 10:20, Katrina Grants from the Bureau of Reclamation will moderate a panel on environmental initiatives across the basin with representatives of the Nature Conservancy, National Park Service, Colorado, and New Mexico. And then later in the tradition of transition, we have a jam-packed afternoon with a number of concurrent parallel sessions covering an array of topics. We started the transition toward concurrent sessions last year, and it proved quite popular. So we have expanded it this year so that you can select the topics of greatest interest to yourselves and to your agencies. At 1:15, there will be two concurrent sessions, One will offer perspectives from Colorado, New Mexico, and the Navajo Nation regarding the Gold King mine spill in 2015, and that will be moderated by Aaron Chavez, Executive Director of the San Juan River Commission. The other session at that same time will focus on the recently completed 10 Tribes Partnership Tribal Water Study. Moderator Daryl Vigil, Water Administrator of the Jicarilla Apache Nation, will discuss that process and that accomplishment with representatives from Reclamation, the Navajo Nation, the Southern Ute Indian Tribe, and CRIT, the Colorado River Indian Tribes. The final pair of concurrent sessions will begin at 3 p.m. One of those will be moderated by our very own Executive Director of the Colorado River Board of California, Tanya Trujillo, and will cover innovations in water use and recycling throughout the West, a real hot item. The other session being held at that time will discuss watershed restoration, forest management, and the proactive management and prevention of wildfires that impact our watersheds. That session will be moderated by Mike Green, who is the Manager of Water Resources for the Public Service Company of New Mexico. We remain on traditional footing this evening. You are all welcome to join us for fun and collaborating at the percolation and runoff reception starting at 5 p.m. next door in Palace 1 and 2. And be sure to stop by each exhibitor table in the exhibit hall. It is an opportunity not just to learn, but to express our thanks to the exhibitors who support our association. And the drawings this year will transition exclusively to the exhibit hall, so don't miss them there. Another transition is that the lower basin contractor agencies have been working toward completion of a drought contingency plan that builds upon the 2007 interim guidelines and is designed to protect against the possibility of declines in Lake Mead that would lead to potentially drastic reduction in supplies and a concurrent increase in conflict. The plan involves a series of relatively complex steps that are still being worked out, but I want to thank our partners within California, the other states, and from Reclamation for helping to craft a framework that we hope will move forward in the near future. We will transition this conversation of drought contingency from the existing group of federal leaders to the next, and I want to take this opportunity to thank our current federal partners, led notably by Mike Connor and Esteban Lopez, who have been longtime partners in our CRWUA world. They are our friends and our colleagues, and we thank them for their contributions, and we wish them well for their future endeavors back in New Mexico or wherever they land. I would like to make a special welcome again this year to our friends and our partners from Mexico. We will soon be transitioning from the historic Minute 319, signed as a 5-year pilot program in 2012, to the next round of agreements. Having the foundation of Minute 319 to work from provides us the framework to continue a collaborative binational relationship for years to come. And thank you again for your support to our CRWUA conference and for everyone's efforts at sound water management within our basin. Our successes will continue to be a role model for other areas around the United States and around the world. I'm looking forward to talking with old and with new friends over the next couple of days, and I hope everyone enjoys the programs, the collaboration in the hallways, and each other's good company. Let's move on to our 2016 video, and if you find the video interesting, feel free to download it from the CRWUA website. Thank you.
Colorado River Story, addressing continuing challenges with collaboration. The Colorado River has sustained life for centuries. It has been rightly termed the hardest working river in America. It provides water to grow the food that we eat, the water we drink in our homes, the flows for habitat and for recreation. Yet, as we look ahead, this river must work even harder. Rising temperatures mean a change in the supply of water for all needs. Over the past several years, we've been using water within the Colorado River system faster than nature can replace it. Now, the reservoir system that has served us is half full. Lake Mead has hit its lowest elevation since it was constructed. Yet there is also hope. We are working together to develop strategies to maintain our water supplies and protect the natural resources we treasure and rely on. We have a proven track record behind us. We must build on this success. Together, we must meet the challenge. The Upper Basin states are Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. Their Lower Basin partners are Arizona, California, and Nevada. Together, they are working closely with local and federal officials, private organizations, and with the Republic of Mexico to continue to develop innovative solutions to each challenge that has come before us. The success of these efforts is critical to the 22 Native American tribes, 35 million water users, thousands of square miles of parks and refuges, millions of acres of agriculture, and billions of dollars in commerce that depend on this water every day. As part of these efforts, it is vitally important that water leaders throughout the basin communicate to the public, elected officials, and business leaders in new and effective ways to encourage conservation and preservation of the system that supports us. These communication efforts help generate awareness. They enlist support for critical basin policies and programs designed to combat mounting challenges like our continuing drought. Our collective voices play a key role in promoting continued and effective collaboration among a diverse group of stakeholders. The Lower Basin states, in partnership with the Bureau of Reclamation, are working together to find new voluntary ways to maximize water storage in Lake Mead. The goal is to advance the common purpose of lowering the prospects that Lake Mead would fall to dangerously low levels. The Upper Basin states are also working on their own plans, with an eye toward increasing operational flexibility and advancing water conservation efforts. A successful pilot system conservation program is underway in both basins that will conserve water for the benefit of the system. Together, we are providing valuable lessons for how to continue conservation efforts for years to come. This spirit of cooperation extends into Mexico for its many uses of Colorado River water. Representatives from water interests on both sides of the border continue to discuss additional potential agreements that will build on the elements of the landmark Minute 319 agreement. The goal is to provide benefits to both countries through agreements to share in shortages and surpluses, provide funding for infrastructure improvements, and identify an environmental flows program. Working together, our partners in Mexico will be the key to a sustainable future for the Colorado River Basin. The environment is important on both sides of the border. Water quality protection and habitat restoration and preservation for endangered and native species are ongoing needs throughout the basin. The Department of the Interior and its partners recently completed the long-term experimental and management plan that will provide a roadmap for Glen Canyon Dam operations for several decades to balance a wide variety of interests, such as water deliveries, hydropower production, preservation of endangered species, recreational opportunities, and preservation of cultural resources. Continued successful operation of the Upper Colorado and San Juan recovery programs and the Lower Colorado River Multi-Species Conservation Program ensure that species will continue to be protected while maintaining certainty for water supply deliveries. Programs such as the Colorado River Basin Salinity Control Program are helping to remove millions of tons of dissolved salts in the Colorado River produced from naturally occurring saline soils in the Colorado Plateau or from agricultural runoff. Other water quality programs exist to prevent potentially hazardous materials from entering the river and address any accidents that may occur. The evolving technology of recycling and reusing water further stretches the limited supplies of water available for use in the basin. State-of-the-art systems are currently providing safe and cost-effective purification for users. And with the prospect of shortages looming, reuse is becoming a more attractive solution for water managers. Agricultural conservation is also underway and increasing in all of the basin states. Efforts to find new sources of water and efficiently use the existing sources will help to reduce the ongoing pressures from drought and increasing growth. While many of the issues presented affect multiple states, if not the entire basin, individual states are taking steps to address ongoing challenges. Among these are: Arizona continues to encourage conservation and new agreements and reduce vulnerability associated with potential shortages due to the Central Arizona Project's junior status on the river. California has underwritten a number of conservation programs. Efforts to modernize the water system in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta and achieve security at the Salton Sea will enable California to move forward with additional innovative Colorado River agreements. Southern Nevada remains over 90% dependent on water from Lake Mead, but has implemented massive conservation efforts and infrastructure projects to ensure it will be able to manage its water supply needs even during low reservoir levels. Colorado has developed its state water plan and must balance its need for additional water storage to meet future demands with efforts to reduce water uses. New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming also share challenges of managing a limited water supply to ensure economic growth and protect public welfare. Tribal nations within the basin continue to protect and develop their water resources and preserve their traditions. Can we ask more of this hardworking river? The answer is yes. A shared common purpose drives collaboration. The basin's water future rests on this continued willingness to be responsible users of the river, to work together, to think creatively, and to find and implement innovative solutions. Working together, we can overcome obstacles and help maximize resources for the people, wildlife, and economies that depend on a healthy Colorado River.
So I'd like to ask the panelists to step forward for our first panel discussion of the day. And I must say, it's a group of esteemed panelists, and it's not true that the seats in front are meant for the junior water right holders. We're all going to be up here at the podium. Yeah, I'll take this one. So this panel is 2-in-1. We get to explore two major topics. The first is to tell a bit of the California story. During times of extreme drought, water shortages, mandatory rationing, and so this presents an interesting opportunity to tell the story of each agency and what other unique issues are affecting the agencies. And that discussion will lead us directly into drought contingency planning. So let me introduce in alphabetical order our panelists. First, from California, Kevin Kelly, General Manager of Imperial Irrigation District. And frankly, all these people are well known to all of you. Jeffrey Keitlinger, General Manager of Metropolitan Water District, and John Powell Jr., President of the Board of Directors of Coachella Water District. We also have, at the end, John Ensminger, General Manager of Southern Nevada Water Authority, Nevada, And then we have Tom Bishotsky of Arizona, Director of the Department of Water Resources. So we have a very esteemed panel of experts today, and each one of them will have a short presentation, and we'll start with Kevin Kelly of Imperial.
Well, thanks, Bart. I'm happy to be here today. I think I've only got like 3-4 minutes. Is that right, Bart? 3-4 minutes?
You can take up to 10, but please don't go beyond that.
All right. Well, so probably you'd prefer 3-4 minutes.
We'll give you.
You know, I just need a little bit of a setup, and then I have a short clip I want to show. But you saw in the video that among the challenges in California were Bay Delta problems in the north and Salton Sea. IID, it's been said before, I'm sure it won't be a surprise to anyone, but no agency is in a better position to assist at Lake Mead with the elevation challenge than IID. And no agency has a greater stake in protecting the viability of that water delivery system. IID for years, decades, has been interested in storage at Lake Mead. And right now, the lake needs it. The problem for our agency is that we're already engaged in the nation's largest agricultural to urban water transfer. And we're within 1 year of inflows to the Salton Sea going away. And then the elevation at that lake drops dramatically. So if you could show the video. So for many of you, you know, if you're not in California, certainly if you're not in Imperial or Coachella Valleys, the Salton Sea is just this sort of exotic problem. But for us, it's an existential threat because the lake's going to get smaller, and as it does, it exposes lake bed, which is just, you know, at the mercy of the winds. So if there isn't a going forward plan at Salton Sea, IID can't participate in a Lake Mead drought contingency plan. And that's a shame because, as I said before, IID is uniquely positioned to be the most help. So in the next 8 years, 38,000 acres of playa at the Salton Sea will be exposed. IID filed a petition with the State Water Board a couple years ago requesting that we have assurance that there was going to be a plan in place to address what ends up being a remarkably desolate landscape at the Salton Sea. To date, that has not happened. We've even revised our request downward to a simple 10-year roadmap. And that also has gone unmet. So we're really faced with a dilemma. IID wants to be a part of the solution at Lake Mead, even on top of the obligations that we have implementing the QSA. Our water users are surprisingly interested in participating in a Lake Mead solution. But for this problem at the Salton Sea, we'd be ready right now, both within California and as part of the lower basin. So just to wrap up, IID remains willing to be part of this solution. We're very appreciative of the leadership shown by the current administration and the team in charge at Interior, and candidly, sorry to see them depart. And if nothing comes together in time in this dispute within our own state, with the State Water Board and Natural Resources and the Governor's Office, we're still willing and able to participate when the next administration takes office. And we expect that there will be a solution at the Salton Sea, because the problem at Lake Mead demands that there be one. So on that hopeful note, thanks very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Bart. Jeffrey Keitlinger, General Manager, Metropolitan Water District. I believe we have a couple of slides, one or two, just showing you who and what we are in case you haven't heard of us. We're this agency located in Southern California, and to show you how helpful and friendly we are, we want to make our problems your problems and ask for your help. This is who we are. We are a small nation state here. We are 26 water agencies located in Southern California that represent roughly 20 million Californians. That's 1 in every 2 Californians. But after November and we had a recent election, I like to think in national terms, we serve water to 1 in every 15 Americans, which is something to think about. And Southern California is the world's 15th largest economy, as California is the 7th largest economy. So it is quite a remarkable area. Let's see I think I have one more slide here. And here's where I get to make your problems my problems, and vice versa. The backbone of California's water supply is the Colorado River Aqueduct. It has been our backbone supply since 1941, when we first started delivering water to Southern California from the Colorado River, 75 years ago. But our other major source comes from Northern California. You see those large reservoirs in Northern California. They move water all the way down to Southern California, and they hit this little area called the Bay Delta. And this is where we all get to share in our issues and our pain. California's been in drought 8 of the last 10 years, but the real struggle has been trying to figure out what is the right environmental solution to safely move water across the Delta. We have worked tirelessly to try and figure that out. We have spent 10 years, $260 million. We have someone in the audience who's written roughly 90,000 pages of documents to try to analyze this issue. And we are teed up to get a question to this. This is where we need this answer, because if we don't get water from Northern California or the Colorado River Aqueduct, Southern California essentially goes belly up. So we need both of those to function and to function well. We were really heartened this past weekend to see California's ranking senator, our senior senator, Dianne Feinstein, reach out and work with our ranking Republican in the House, Kevin McCarthy, on a bipartisan compromise to move what was formerly called WRDA, now called the WIN bill, and move a critical piece of legislation for California that addresses some of the issues on a temporary basis over the next 5 years in the Bay Delta, move a lot of money to the basin states and to everybody on water issues, resolve a long-standing issue that we've had with the Pechanga tribe on California, and that we're very pleased to see get resolved. A lot of major issues for California, but I think what was really important is that this was a bipartisan effort. Haven't seen a lot of bipartisanship lately in Washington. Haven't seen California, frankly, pull itself and work together. It was passed roughly 4-1. Californians voted for this measure, despite the opposition of one of our senators. Very critical. To my mind, very hopeful that we can probably work on these issues and solve some of them. So there's a couple of issues that California has to resolve that we can participate and make this drought contingency plan work. We need some clear direction from the federal government, what's going to happen in the Bay Delta. We need some IID, and the rest of California needs some direction, both from the state and the federal government, on the Salton Sea. These are our, using some lawyerese, kind of conditions precedent, things we need to make work. If we can have those work, then California can get to work on the drought contingency plan. And my view is we can pull all this together, hopefully in a bipartisan way in 2017. So I'm optimistic, and I believe we can do all this. But we're going to need some help. And we also need your understanding why Bay Delta, Salton Sea matters to all 7 states. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next presenter is to my left, John Powell Jr. of Coachella.
All right, well, thank you. And I have to say, I agree with the comments from Kevin Kelly and Jeff Keitlinger. The Salton Sea, absolutely critical. Coachella Valley Water District is located on the north side of the Salton Sea. Bay Delta, likewise. We're one of the only agencies, along with Met, that gets its water from the State Water Project and the Colorado River, so both very important to us. Wanted to just give you a sense of what we do and why the Colorado River is important to the Coachella Valley. We can get into the slide. There's a couple of pictures here. Here is the 123-mile Coachella Canal that flows north by gravity into the Coachella Valley. So there we are at the north end of the Salton Sea. It's largely an agricultural area that now has a large urban component to it as well. We started managing our groundwater long time ago. Groundwater management is something that the state of California is now getting into the business of being involved in. But even as early as 1918, when our district was formed, we set up contracts to build this canal and have this water delivered. And we can go to the next slide. Very interesting, we have a very large aquifer beneath the Coachella Valley. It makes us a little bit unique to other agencies, and maybe 39 million acre feet measured in the first 1,000 feet of depth, and we know it's much deeper than that. Typically, wells can be as deep as 2,000 feet. So 39 million acre feet of water beneath the floor of the Coachella Valley, but what we don't want to see is that water level dropping. So we did see the water level dropping. You can see it at the beginning on the left side of that graph. This is a well in the eastern Coachella Valley, about 3.5 miles away from a replenishment facility that we recently constructed. And when the canal first came in around 1950, you can see the water level that had been dropping is rising again. But then right around 1980, big drop, steady decline in water levels, and what made the difference for us? A couple of things. One is the quantification settlement agreement, which we have been able to benefit by not just being able to put that water to good use, but to build projects that allow us to protect our aquifer. So with that degree of certainty, we invested $50 million in a replenishment site, the Thomas E. Levy Replenishment Facility in La Quinta, which this well is near. And so you can see in 2005, the water level going back up again. We've also invested about $50 million in distributing that water to the center of our valley in the Mid-Valley Pipeline. And we're able to take that water and use it for golf courses, and we're actually looking at a replenishment facility at the Mid-Valley as well. So we've seen that increase again since the QSA in our water table, but what we're going to do now is we're not squandering that. Conservation is a major part of our water management strategy, and we can go to the next slide. And you can see here where the Coachella Valley typically is a green belt, with golf courses and landscaping. Now we're finding ways to incentivize these private golf courses to remove turf or to not overseed the rough areas. This is what used to be the Bob Hope Chrysler Classic golf tournament, professional golf tournament. They're now the Career Builder Challenge this year at PGA West in La Quinta, and you can see it's doing great. And that's without a lot of green. So we're finding ways to use less water, and the source of the Colorado River as well as conservation are allowing us to be good stewards of that aquifer.
Thank you, John. Our next two speakers are our colleagues from the other lower basin states. And I have to say, anytime we can get Arizona up at the table with California, it's a good sign. And Tom, welcome to have you here.
California.
Yeah, we like it that way. So our next speaker is Tom Bushatsky, who is the Arizona Department of Water Resources Director. And Tom, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the drought contingency conversation and what elements of that are important to Arizona and also, John, for Nevada. But if you could expound on that a little bit, I'd appreciate it.
Thanks, Bart. So I think, as you heard in the video, the Central Arizona Project in Arizona, which diverts about 1.5 million acre-feet of water, is kind of the junior priority user, maybe along with Nevada.
Maybe not.
And maybe not. We're at huge risk, potentially, of that completely drying up. So cities, agricultural tribes, all reliant upon that water. So rather than test whether or not that would actually happen in the real world, I think we've all come together in the lower basin to look at ways to help protect Lake Mead, create flexibility in the lake to incentivize additional storage in the lake in a way that would prop up the elevations of Lake Mead and avoid those really deep shortages that might come in the lower elevations of Lake Mead. Arizona can reasonably weather the smaller shortages at the higher elevations in the lake. We have abundant groundwater in the Central Arizona Project service area. We've been banking groundwater for years to also improve the aquifer capacity there. And so we can do that, but when the lake gets really low, if we start to get shortages of 1 million acre-feet or 2 million acre-feet, which are possible, that's something hard to deal with. So these gentlemen in our drought contingency planning discussions really embrace that notion. They've been very collaborative in trying to find solutions to protect the lake from falling to those draconian levels. And from my perspective, the guts of the deal have been incentivizing and creating flexibility so that water that's stored in the lake doesn't get stranded. It can be taken when folks need it in a way that also has parameters that protect the lake. And also at the bottom end, if we do get into trouble despite our best efforts, then we have kind of what I like to call a backstop, eventually a collective agreement to protect and take actions collectively to protect elevation 1020 in the lake. And I think that's really the guts of the deal. There are great benefits. Now, the drought contingency plan does create incremental additional impacts to our water users in Arizona. And those water users, I guess, in the near term would be Central Arizona Project agriculture, but shortly thereafter, tribes and cities who have the next lowest priority water within Arizona, within the CAP. And so we're working internally on a plan in Arizona to help offset some of those impacts. And right now that plan is really about conserving even more water in Lake Mead with some of Arizona's water supplies to avoid that first 2007 guideline trigger of elevation 1075. And so under the drought contingency plan, Arizona would take 192,000 acre-feet of reductions at elevation 1090. At elevation 1075, we would take another 320,000 acre-feet. If we can keep the lake above 1075, there's that benefit, the delta between the 320 and the 192. So we still have a lot of work to do, but I am optimistic, as my colleagues are, that we are going to deliver this plan. Failure is really not an option. And I'm reminded when Kevin talks about the Salton Sea shrinking, we know the prevailing wind blows from west to east, i.e. into Arizona. We also understand that if Jeff can't resolve his Bay Delta issues, we can give all the flexibility in the world to incentivize storage in Lake Mead, but if he doesn't have the water supplies to do it, it's not going to happen. Likewise with Kevin, to get his Salton Sea issue resolved, so they can potentially participate, and they've been very clear about their desire to do that in our discussions and here today. We have shown through the Memorandum of Understanding program and the Pilot System Conservation program, which again, you saw something in the video about, that we can actually make a difference at Lake Mead. There's probably 10 feet of water conserved in Lake Mead between the 3 states and Mexico. That's helped avoid Lake Mead going below 1075 in 2016 and 2017. So we've already proven with those programs that we can make a big difference. And I'll just close by saying that for Governor Doug Ducey, we have lots of issues in Arizona, lots of water issues in Arizona, but for him, the drought contingency plan is his #1 near-term water issue for his administration. That shows the importance to this issue for the state of Arizona. And with that, I'll close. Thank you.
John Ensminger.
Thanks, Bart. Representing the state with a whopping 1.8% of the legal entitlements to the Colorado River, I will try to keep my comments in line with our apportionment. We've tried very hard not to make our problems other people's problems. We provide water supply to... We provide water to 7 out of every 10 people that live.
That'll be enough.
1.8's up.
7 out of every 10 Nevadans, 90% reliant upon the Colorado River. And to take care of our own house, we've spent, since the turn of the century, about $250 million to reduce our consumptive use by 37%. And by 2020, we'll have spent $1.5 billion to secure our water delivery system from Lake Mead. But even having taken care of ourselves, we're keenly interested in regional solutions. And I believe the drought contingency plan, commonly known as DCP, is critical for the entire river. One thing that Tom didn't mention, an element within DCP, is the goal. The first time ever, the lower basin states have agreed to a goal to protect elevation 1020 in Lake Mead, to do whatever we need to do to protect that elevation. And I believe that's critical for everyone. I've seen written positions that DCP is primarily for the benefit of Nevada and Arizona. I don't believe that's true at all. At elevation 1020, there's approximately 5.6 million acre-feet of live storage left in Lake Mead, less than 2/3 of 1 year's supply. That should be of critical interest to California, to the country of Mexico, as well as the upper basin. If by 2026 we hit elevation 1020 in Lake Mead, there's a 55% chance that within the next 24 months, Lake Powell goes below power pool without DCP in place. With DCP in place, we cut the chance of getting to 1020 in half, by 50%. So again, DCP is important for everyone who uses water on this river. I think the key elements, as Tom said, are flexibility and certainty. We're introducing flexibility to store more water, to take water when you need it, but also certainty that when the reservoir really needs it, we're all going to be there to store more water and to protect these elevations. So it's going to take all of us. In a lot of ways, the Salton Sea water fix, 3-2X, an upper basin drought contingency plan, and the lower basin drought contingency plan are all one thing. We divide them into categories because we have to get work done. But we do need to accomplish all of these things in order to be successful. Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions I'd like to pose. One to Kevin regarding the Salton Sea issue, which is one of the conditions requisite to moving forward with IID. What is the trajectory of the conversation regarding the sea? Is it positive? Jeff mentioned there's positive movement on the Bay Delta. How about the sea?
Well, I don't rightly know. The state of California has been, I mean, candidly, they've been asleep. And there's no excuse for it because everybody knew going into the 2003 QSA that there were 15 years in which to devise this going forward plan for what happens at Salton Sea. So IID filed a petition with the state board a couple of years ago. That became, or the response from California was to form a task force. We did renew our call for this 10-year plan from the State Water Board just a month ago. And we're waiting for, a more coherent response from our own state. Our dispute at IID is with our own state. And I think that we can still get there. In some ways, we're closer than we've ever been to a breakthrough. And as I've said before, in other ways, we're very far away. So I am hopeful, but I'm in the business of being hopeful.
Thanks, Kevin. One other item that is on our plate currently and moving forward is approval of Minute 32X with Mexico. That has a drought contingency component associated with it. And John, starting with you on the end, could you discuss whether that has any effect on our discussions or timing of either approval?
Certainly. Well, we have fantastic partners in the country of Mexico. I mean, the work we've done from Minute 316 all the way to Minute 319 has really changed that relationship that wasn't very functional as recently as 2000, 2001. So to have reached an agreement in principle, I believe, with them on a Minute 32X that would provide for commensurate storage from Mexico if the lower basin gets our DCP done, I believe is critically important because we need to know that they'll be there as much as they need to know that we're going to be there. Timing is a challenge. Obviously, getting all of these things across the finish line simultaneously may not be possible. So I believe with the time we have left in this administration, we need to do everything possible to land as many elements that we've been working on as possible, and should continue to work hard to complete 32X if possible before the inauguration.
Thanks, Tom.
So I think for Arizona, we see where we're at with Minute 32X as a great opportunity. I think the terms and conditions of that minute as they exist today create a lot of benefits for all of us on the United States side and for Mexico on Mexico's side. We see an opportunity to strike now while the iron is hot, so to speak, and maybe bring that to closure. I have the distinct pleasure of all the states in terms of my Colorado River dealings and entering into agreements of having to get approval by the state legislature. And so that is an important aspect that I'm trying to deal with and looking at ways to perhaps expedite that process for Minute 32X. In the perfect world, I would be in front of the legislature with both the drought contingency plan and 32X, but the timing of that might not work out that way. But we see some real benefits to 32X for Arizona, Mexico agreeing to take reductions when we take reductions, Mexico dealing with those additional reductions of DCP, and maybe most importantly, the projects in Mexico helping to conserve water in Lake Mead that we all benefit from. And for Arizona, something that we've been working with Sonora, the state of Sonora, on through something called the Arizona-Mexico Commission, potential to look at a binational desalination project in the Sea of Cortez. And both Minute 319 and now perhaps Minute 32X, teeing up the possibility to continue to move that forward in somewhat of a timely manner.
Thanks. To the California agencies, Kevin, do you have any comment about that, or shall we move on?
You know, we've not had, ID has not had a great deal of visibility into the binational talks. But, you know, we're right across the border from the Republic of Mexico and the capital of Baja, Mexicali. I think it was the earthquakes that spawned this binational effort, or this renewed binational effort. So we're very supportive of it. We do think that it probably exists, you know, on the same plane as DCP, and while we're going to keep trying to do our part, we think it's a package.
Thank you. And Jeff, could you address the timing issue?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to what Kevin and Tom and John have said is that it's pretty clear in the next 4 weeks of this administration, we are not going to land everything. We are not going to get the drought contingency plan completed. There is an outside chance of getting some accomplishments with Mexico done, and yet the accomplishments with Mexico don't really work unless we have a drought contingency plan as well in the lower and upper basins. So we are going to need a very seamless transition into the Trump administration, and we need some clear indication of how those pieces will all fit together. And absent them fitting together, we frankly don't have much. So all of them have to be done. They may be sequenced in various steps, but they all have to be done, and we need to have a good transition to make sure they're all accomplished in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Any comment, John?
No, you know, I would just say I agree, and the level of cooperation has been impressive. I think we saw that in Mr. Fleck's book, you know, describing these groups working together to, you know, I agree timing may be an issue, but I'm impressed and encouraged by the cooperation.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, thank you to all of our esteemed panelists. We're out of time for this panel. It could no doubt go on for quite a bit longer. But I'd like to thank each of you for your presentations. And then to remind all of you out there that we'll take a short break at this time. We'll reconvene here at 10:20 for the next panel. But in the meantime, we'll have our first drawing in the exhibit hall. So we welcome you all there, tickets in hand. Thank you again.